My name is Ashley, and this is Let's Talk Dispatch.
I do. You're gonna do it really well.
And I believe the world needs more dispatchers.
Around in the mud, blood, and beer.
Years that I'm not working 4th of July. 4th of July.
Say community policing, right? What about community dispatch?
So on this show, with the help of my guests, we will educate, empower, and support the heroes behind the headset. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode here on Let's Talk Dispatch with me, Ashley, the Raspy Dispatcher. With this episode, we are about a month into 2025, and this is about where, we start to lose steam a little bit. Those resolutions are looking a little farther and farther away, if that's something you folks are into. But I just want to remind everybody that just showing up and doing the thing, whatever it is enough. That's all we're looking for. Every day is just continuing to consistently take one step at a time. Sometimes it's not about hitting every single goal, sometimes it's just about being consistent. So there's one thing you can focus on in 2025. I would say just being consistent, taking one small step at a time, and everything's gonna be okay. And with that, let's hear a word from our sponsor. Our sponsor is Zybex Media. Since 2020, Zybex has been creating impactful recruitment films for their customers. Zybex Media offers their expertise, providing a full range of media solutions designed to attract and retain talent for all PSAPs. Visit zybex.com/media to learn more. These partnerships help us continue to spread the message that the world needs more dispatchers. As always, if you haven't checked out our sponsors, what are you waiting for? They support us here at the Raspy Dispatcher, so they are supporting dispatchers across the state. So check them out ASAP if you haven't yet. With that, my guest today has over 15 years of experience across various roles of emergency services, from frontline communicator to center manager. They bring a wealth of knowledge and unique perspective to the table. They're currently leading a communications center while also pursuing a doctoral research on the impact of supportive leadership within dispatch. They believe that it's time for leaders in emergency services to prioritize empathy and treat their people as people. My guest today, T'airra. Hey.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm very excited to be here. Thank you.
I'm so excited as well. Full transparency, we had a little hiccup when we first tried to record this episode, but we got our lives together, and here we are, ready to bring you guys some awesome content. Oh my gosh, where are you filming from?
North Carolina.
Okay.
Yep.
North Carolina. I feel like the Carolinas in general, I feel like they're like really secretly pretty out there.
Like, gorgeous.
Like I never really understood, I'm from California, West Coast kid, so I never really understood the beaches they got on that side of the world, and the fort, it's really pretty.
My newest telecommunicator moved here because she thought it was gorgeous from California.
Really?
Yeah.
Very cool. Oh my gosh. Very, very cool. Are you from there? Grew up there, or?
No, I grew up and also started my career in Buffalo, New York. Moved down here about 10 years ago.
Okay. Very cool. Very cool. Well, tell us a little bit more about yourself and how you got into public safety.
Yeah, absolutely. Married, wife of 4. My kids are aging out, so
hold on, just a little longer.
So that's been fun. It's a little weird. The house is so quiet all the time, when they're gone. And so my husband and I are in this new phase where we're traveling a lot right now, which is really fun. We'll actually be in California in a couple of weeks.
Hey.
So by the time this airs, we'll be back probably. but yeah, we so as far as how I got started was actually I was a criminal justice major pre-law, and I had back in New York, public safety jobs are civil service. So I had an instructor who would give extra credit for civil service exams. So on Saturdays, we would just go take the exams just for the points. And the sheriff's office actually called me in for an interview because, I scored really well on the test. And
Mm,
I just fell in love with the idea. We all know what 911 is, but it just
yeah.
never occurs to you that it's something you can do as a career. You know what I mean? So I got into it. My goal was just to stay in it while I finished my undergrad, but ended up loving it and, never went on to law school. And then later got my master's in emergency management, did that full time for a couple years and really just missed dispatch, missed the center. So
Mm,
to be back, I've been back for about 2 years now,
very
um,
cool.
leading the center where I am now. So
Very cool. It's all, it's funny because I got my degrees in criminal justice, law enforcement, etc. And I remember one of like my family mentors who was in law enforcement was like, "You just need to go get your law degree." And I
yeah,
was like,
yeah.
I see the premise and
There's no just. Don't put just in front of yeah, yeah.
but also it feels like a lot, you know.
Yeah. For me, what switched things up was that I had started having kids and got married while I was still
Mhm.
in college.
Yeah.
And law school, the ones in our area at the time, wanted you to not work while you were in school.
Mm,
And that just wasn't in the cards for me. So that
yeah.
took me out of the game for law school right there.
Yeah. And that's such an interesting reality because I played basketball in college and I started at the junior college level, so we were all just trying to make it. We were all just trying to get a scholarship. And I remember one of my coaches kind of had the same thought, like, you can't work
Yeah.
this. And I'm like, you are junior college, like we're from California,
Yeah.
like we're out here surviving.
I get it when you're on a scholarship, but if y'all aren't
Yeah.
giving me any money, what? Yeah, my son
Right.
plays junior college ball right now,
Yeah.
so that's fun. But
Yeah.
he also works,
Yeah,
so
that part. I'm like, you crazy as heck. We got rent. Like these people, we got rent to pay. You're like, what?
yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy.
Oh my gosh. Well, it sounds like, yeah, it's one of those things, like things happen the way they're supposed to happen.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
it sounds like all the experience that you gained through your studies kind of led you to this leadership role in your center.
yeah, for sure. So leadership is one of those things that I fell into that born leader and you're a natural leader. So I fell into that kind of what I believe now is a fallacy. But I
Mhm.
fell into that, in my early career. But it was really in my master's program where we took a lot of leadership courses that I learned that there's a lot of work that goes into this. You may have some characteristics that kind of better position you for leadership, but to really be a good leader, especially in this field, takes a lot of work. And you
Mhm.
have to be willing to consistently and constantly work at it.
Mhm. And I think honestly, I feel like has been a huge topic lately on my shows because I feel like it's missed, right?
Mhm.
We oftentimes promote up in
Yeah.
this industry, right? Like, so and so's been doing this for X amount of years. The person who's been doing it a little longer finally left. Everyone interviews, but you give it to the person who's had the longest
Yeah.
standing, and then all
Either
of a
the
sudden,
longest standing or high performers. And I talk about that a lot because just because someone is a high performer doesn't mean that they're going to be a good leader. And I think that that's one of the things that keeps our culture and our centers, so rough and in such a tough
yeah.
spot because we promote these high performers with no regard to how they treat people, no
Mhm.
regard to, the vibe they bring to the room. And all those things are important, sometimes more important than performance.
Yeah. And then we leave them there with
Yeah,
no
with no
knowledge,
training,
no
no,
guidance. Like you got this right, like you good. And then they just disappear
yeah,
like into the abyss. Like, hold
yeah,
on, wait a minute. You guys left it smoldering, now it's starting to flame. Like, what do I
yeah,
do with it now?
yeah,
Um, which is why, I've said it a few times and I know the people are have probably been like, Ashley, grace is given where it's due. And I'm like, I don't know. Sometimes you just got to give people grace. I
yeah,
never think that anyone is intentionally coming into work to ruin my day, you
Correct.
know? Um, and I genuinely think when supervisors or leadership fails, it's simply they've been failed too,
Yeah, there's
you know?
always, we all answer to somebody, number one. We're
Mhm.
all, um, I say all the time, BS rolls downhill. So if the people at the tippy top don't understand, what you're dealing with, what you're going through, what true leadership looks like, those impacts are gonna go all the way down to the frontline leadership,
Mhm. Mhm.
level. Because what else is gonna happen?
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly, exactly.
Our frontline leadership can sometimes look a little shabby, but it's because they're not being prepared. It's because we don't have time for continued education
I mean, right?
and all those issues. Yeah.
It's such a like our problems are kind of they like in dispatch kind of manifest on top of each other,
Yeah.
right? Retention is an issue, but we shove new people in here and then we leave them to just the wolves. And then, you know, uh, we need our folks to be ready, trained, and able to handle situations that are out of
Who
any
knows? Yeah.
creator's wildest dream, but we don't provide them any additional training or
Mhm.
very minimal additional training
Right. We train
that's
them once and
required.
hope that they remember it
Like,
15
we're
years
gonna be okay.
later when it
Like,
happens.
25 years in, they trained once, they'll be all right, Like, and so we're really like in this space where we're creating our own problems. And then when you talk about the problems, they're like, well, we don't have time. Ashley,
Yeah.
like all this sounds wonderful, great ideas, but I'm just trying to staff this place with duct tape and glue, and I don't have time for that. What would you say to people who are like kind of in that mindset of just survival mode, like plugging the holes without realizing there's holes behind you you can't see that are happening
Yeah.
because of the way you're plugging the holes?
So the truth is that we don't have time not to,
Mm,
right? If we we tend to always make a way in those situations where we have to, but then we're not willing to do that same work to make space for training, to make space
mm,
for, team building, to make, we can do it.
mm,
We all, just about every center has those people that, and a lot of times are inviting that overtime. Go ahead and give
mhm.
them those hours so your
Yeah.
supervisor can get trained. Go ahead and give them those hours because if there was an emergency, we would give it to them anyway.
Mm, mhm. Like
So
who are we saving money for?
what are we saving it for? And that's the awesome thing is a lot of times, we have training opportunities that don't cost extra. A
Mm,
lot of the training that we do, just, depending on the area, may be covered by the 911 board. It may be covered by, this grant or that grant or something, or,
mm,
ABCO or Nina's is doing training for us, but we're just not willing to, give one group overtime while we're training this group and then flip flop.
mm.
But again, if we had, the flu running through the center, the overtime would be the same anyway.
Right, all of a sudden, we know how to manage a schedule. That's
Yeah,
crazy.
yeah. So we just have to do that and we have to get out our own way, get out of our
Mhm,
heads. Those same cycles, like you said, our problems manifest upon each other because it's
mhm,
just a cycle. And it's
mhm.
gonna continue until we do something different.
Mhm, mhm. So I definitely would encourage like leadership. Leadership, you got a tough job. Don't let no one tell you otherwise. I tell my supervisor all the time, like, when you text me, like, it's never good news on my day off, like I know that's not fun for you,
Yeah, yeah,
forcing me in, mandating me, whatever it looks like. I know that's not fun for you.
yeah.
So um but we in leadership, we got to be advocates for ourselves the way we're
Mhm.
advocates for our people.
Yep.
There's a lot of self-care that needs to happen in management roles because I said this on the podcast the other week is a tight remember the Titans quote, attitude reflects leadership,
Yeah.
captain. So
Yeah.
if we're seeing, you lead a certain way, and then you wonder why your people are acting a certain way. Like, yeah, take a moment to reflect and see what it is you're exuding out there.
Sure. And that's definitely one of my flaws is I talk a good game when it comes to
Mm,
self-care and taking time off. I'm the worst.
mm,
I'm always here.
mm.
It's like on one side I feel good because I know that they're supported and I'm here for
Yeah.
them. But then when I'm like, you guys should take some time off, they're like, really? Really?
I'll see you tomorrow.
So yes,
Oh, man.
that is definitely my struggle. It's always been. I've always been such a workaholic,
Mhm, mhm.
which is also probably why I'm a lifetime student. Uh,
Girl, I used to grab same.
I'm just always looking for something to do. Even though I say I'm exhausted, I'm just
Mhm.
always looking for.
I saw on TikTok the other day someone, made a reel or whatever, and it was like, girl, you don't need that degree, you need a hobby.
Yes, no, it's true. It's so true. School is my
You're
hobby. School,
right.
it's like that's how like this whole PhD program, I got really interested in organizational change and organizational development and
Mm,
culture. And I was doing all this research. So I started getting emails from, doctoral programs just because I was researching so and coming across so many things. I was
mm.
like, I might as well do it. I'm doing the research anyway. I may as well.
Might as well go get my doctor real quick,
Yeah, I'll spend a
somewhere.
cool $100,000 on another.
Yeah, I always said, because I have two master's degrees,
Mhm.
and I always said, like, it's gonna take someone to piss me off to make me go get my doctoral because I
Yeah.
will correct them. It's doctor.
No,
Like,
that's what
it's
it's
doctor.
kind of what happened. I went through such a bad situation that I was like, let me figure out exactly how not to ever do this.
Yes,
Let me
yes.
figure out where this went wrong. So
Right? Like they
it
put some
was one of those
respect on my name. So if you ever see me with a doctor in front of my name, y'all know it's a petty. It's a
I'm
petty.
gonna ask you. I'm gonna be like, who was it? Who
Yeah,
was
you'll be like, what? Tell the story. Because straight up. Sign every email, correct people in public.
it?
I'm answering
No,
911 like it's doctor.
no, no. I tell my kids I'm gonna make them call me doctor for a good
Oh,
month, but other than that,
that is amazing.
I'm just Tiara.
Well, you've been through like many stages in our centers, and we touched on it a little bit. Our centers struggle a bit historically. I think we're shifting as a whole to a
Right.
better place. We're getting a little more light shed. People are acknowledging that we exist in the basement, and so it's a really, I would say it's a really interesting time to be in dispatch. Um, but as someone who's answered the phones on the front line and is now in this leadership management role, what would you say is maybe most important with people who are looking to promote? Because not everybody wants to promote, not everyone wants to supervise, but for folks who that's kind of in their interest, in their cards, reflecting on your journey, what do you think is helpful or relevant, important, all the
I,
words?
I think the first step is understanding who you are, what you want, and why you want to promote.
Mm,
Um, I think it's funny that a lot of times the best leaders don't want to promote.
it's true.
They don't, um, and it's because of motives, right? Sometimes leaders or certain people want a role to be in charge or to be there to do that. And if your goal is not to be supportive, if your goal is not to lead change, if your goal, then you're going to struggle in that role. If you don't know enough about yourself to be authentic, to be who you are, no matter what you do, people are going to see through it,
Mhm.
and they're going to doubt you because if you don't know who you are, how can you then lead others?
Yeah.
There's so much that goes into that. A lot of times through my conversations with people, I encourage them to be a CTO first
Mm,
because it's like unofficial leadership where
mhm.
you get to build a relationship with one, sometimes two, depending on how much your center is struggling.
That
One,
part.
two, or three people at a time, where that then prepares you for those responsibilities on a larger scale.
Mhm. I think that's a great suggestion. I mean, CTOs are responsible for retention in your center,
A
I would
lot,
say. They
yes.
are like outside of you, continuing to connect with your applicants. Like they're the first line of am I gonna like it here? You
Yes.
know,
Yeah.
lots of horror stories, experiences
Mhm.
that I've heard from CTOs and trainer. I mean, to this day, people will message me and be like, "Excuse me, I'm struggling with my CTO. Like,
Yeah.
they see me and they like, what do I do?" So like, hear
Yeah.
me, CTOs. You guys are so
So
important.
important.
Because of that retention, but it's a tough job too. Like,
Hard. Yeah. Yes.
and supervisors, give your CTOs a break. I've seen people train for like the year, like,
Yeah.
like
It's
training,
exhausting. It is
training them
exhausting.
burn out
Mhm.
galore. Give them a week off where they're just doing their job,
Yeah.
or send them on vacation to Mexico because they earned it. Like training
Yes.
new
Mexico is
dispatchers,
crazy. Mhm.
tough, 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 tough. Well, we talked
Now
a
I'm
little
thinking
bit.
about Mexico.
No, I know, right? All right, guys, that was a great episode. We out. We just gonna skip the visit to California and go straight on.
Right to Mexico. Yes.
Uh, but we talked a little bit about your doctoral research and how that focuses on supportive leadership.
Yeah.
What does supportive leadership look like to you in a dispatch center context?
Yeah. So the thing about support is it's different, not just day to day, but person to person.
Mm,
It's why building relationships is important. It's why listening is important. Because what is supportive for one person is completely different for the next, or one shift, or one incident. So you really, to be a supportive leader, have to have relationships with your people. Um, you have to continue to talk to them. You can't have one on one and think what's going to work for them for the rest of the year, because as we all know, things change,
mm,
life happens. um, so for me, I really just focus on building those relationships and understanding what that means for each person. Now, luckily, I have a small center. I have 13 employees. That's a
mhm,
lot easier, for me than some of
yeah,
these metro, big city centers.
mm,
But that's when it comes to having a great team, right? Having a great team of leaders to make sure that that's happening with
mm,
everyone. But for us here, that's what that looks like. And it's one of those things where it sounds simple, but it's not easy.
yeah.
It's a simple concept, but it does take time. You
Mhm,
see my calendar, I have time mapped out to go sit in the center to make sure I'm having, conversations with them. They bought me a crock pot for Christmas. So I kept the new crock pot and brought my old one into the center.
uh,
When you bring something like that, you can't just bring it empty. So we made beef stew. So
yeah, yeah,
we
come get a
had beef
plate.
stew for lunch today. So they do appreciate the little things for sure.
Yeah.
And people just want to be seen and they want to be heard. And sometimes I can't fix it. Sometimes it is just the way it is. But they know that if there was something that could be done, that I would do it. They know that I'm listening, that I'm hearing them, and that we would try to do it, differently or better the next time. But it does come down to just wanting to be heard.
Mm. It really does. And I love the um, idea of scheduling your time. Um, because and I think for any supervisors or listening or anyone, if you have a business, scheduling your time is super important because in your
Mhm.
head you think you're doing XYZ, right? You're like, no, what
Yeah.
you mean? Like I've been out here,
Yeah.
I've been doing this stuff, right? And then if you look at your time, you're like, wait a minute, like I've been falling short in
Yeah.
these areas. So that's a great way to really um what's the word I'm looking for? Um I'm not gonna get it. I'm not gonna find it. To make your time like very
To
tangible.
allocate your time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But so you could like physically see where you're
Yeah.
spending your time. And if there's a question of you not showing up, or if you receive that feedback, you can look back and see, like, because it's not always you, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes people are hurt. Sometimes people say things that aren't true, and their experience is valid, and all that stuff. But for you, like being able to actually see where you put your time and when you put it into your people, like I think that's super helpful for
Yeah. For sure.
just to check in, like, no, I'm doing it. I'm doing what I'm supposed to do,
Yeah.
Love
That's
it.
where I am right now, is just making sure I spend as much time as possible with my night shift. Sometimes
Mm,
it's so hard to get with night shift.
It's true. They're just night shift feral. You know what
Poor
I mean?
babies.
Like they just out here, no supervision, just running around the PD. Yeah,
I love when I come in, everybody's just like, yeah, I see y'all sweatpants. I'm not gonna say anything today. I'm just gonna be blind and we're gonna talk.
ignore it.
Not gonna look. Yeah.
That's hilarious. No, for real. That's one of the reasons I quite enjoy night shift. Like
Yeah.
no one's here, kick my
Nope.
feet up a little bit.
Yes.
Uh-oh. I'm like, I heard the
You can hear. Yeah.
start putting, where's my, gotta go to the second channel. Like,
They're looking.
someone's little emergency button. At least it's all the same, you know?
Yes. Everywhere.
I was like, oh, who clicked it? Well, another thing, like I opened up with your intro, is you mentioned the importance of treating people like people. Could you share a few strategies or examples of how you've been able to implement this into your center?
Examples are hard.
Mm,
Um, because it really is. It's a. So I'll go. I think that our centers are getting better in the big stuff, right?
mm,
So if we do have a new software, a new product, we're doing much better in getting feedback and stuff like that.
mm,
It's the day to day where I think we're still struggling.
mm,
And so the day to day is where I really focus with our team and, making sure, hey, what do you have going on? Stuff like attendance, stuff like overtime allocation. Those rules can't always be black and white. I think
yeah.
that sometimes in centers is where we kill ourselves. We're like, well, this is the rule, so you have to do this. But a lot of times I'll say, hey, there's a slot. Y'all work it out. Who wants to do it? Rather than saying,
Mhm,
hey, they did it the last time, so it has to be you. Or,
mhm,
just little things like that, allowing them to work things out. Number one, if they're making those sacrifices and they're doing that collectively with each other, typically there are no hurt feelings, right?
mhm,
Typically nobody feels like they got the short end of the stick because I let them work it out. It really comes down to little things like that.
mhm, mhm.
Again, it is not lost on me that I have a small center and it's much
Yeah.
easier to do those things here.
Yeah. And I mean, but it's one of those, like you said earlier, like it's easier said than done, but also it's actually sometimes just easy. You know what I mean?
No, it
Like
is.
I'm here when that fails and we have a policy and we have to like run the numbers
Yeah.
and blah 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 blah.
Yeah.
But there is also a world where, if you want to cover otherwise,
We are all
it
adults.
goes
And
up,
that is,
like
I say that all the time. We are all adults. When they're like, hey, they call me Miss T or some boss lady. Boss lady, what do you want us to do? I just want it to get done.
mhm,
However, let me know. Let me know
mhm,
how you guys think we need to do it, and
yeah.
we'll go ahead and get it moving. Like I don't.
And it's so simple, but it's also very, very empowering, right?
Mhm.
Because I feel like in general, when we get into these adult jobs, these adult roles, there is a level of you're either being managed
Yeah.
or you're not being looked at all. Like
Yeah.
it's this weird thing where it's either you got someone micromanaging you and you're like, hello, I am a whole adult. Like
Whole adult.
or
Yeah.
you're sitting there like, hi, I need a little guidance. I just have a question and no one's there. Like that's the
That's it. Yeah,
yeah.
it is. It's yeah. My grandma used to say, from sugar to shit. That's
No, for real. For real. It's
that's
just
what
so
it is.
funny.
One to the other. But yeah, like I said, it really is what it comes down to is letting adults be adults, but being there,
Mhm.
to catch things when they do start to crumble. To say, all right, let's reel it in. But that's what we are. We're leaders, right? So
Mhm.
you lead them, you guide them. It doesn't need to be you creating the answer every time because
Mhm.
there's no growth in that for anybody else.
Yeah. I like that. There's no growth in that for anybody else. Because, I very much have always been in the mindset of and it's probably like my basketball history and like my coaching history, which is I'm preparing you for the next coach type of thing, right? Like When I was junior college, I was trying to get a scholarship this 4 year, and then that's it because I'm not that good. But other players that I've coached, they're trying to go overseas. They're trying
Yeah.
to, scrape their way maybe into the WNBA. Like, how do we get you there?
Hmm.
Because I'm part of this journey here, but how do we get you there? And I
Yeah.
think oftentimes, especially in dispatch, especially in an industry where we're dealing with such a staffing issue, we get to this place in leadership where I want to keep you here
Yeah.
because keeping
That's
you
great.
here keeps, my schedule sane and everyone else mandate down. And it's like people don't want to stay where they feel like they're being tied down, right?
And the
Like,
thing is, because everyone's struggling for staffing, they don't have to. You think you're keeping somebody there, but listen, the center down the street from me, not only are they hiring, but they're hiring for a $3,000 signing bonus.
that part. Okay, this is so valid
Yes.
because I think a lot of folks, especially folks who have been doing this like 30 years, especially in law enforcement, because we have a heavy patrol side in a lot of our centers, they remember the time when we had one job opening and thousands of applicants.
Yeah.
Like that's valid. That
Yeah.
that did exist back
Hmm.
in the day, But now we have hundreds of jobs and
Yeah.
50 applicants, and 25 of them are worth looking at.
Yeah.
So
It's a struggle.
we
All we're doing is trading the same people around. We're not really getting a lot of new people in. We're getting a lot of, hey, I was over here for this many years, here for this many years. Here. That's what we're just really moving those same people around.
Yeah. And, they're all good dispatchers. This is the tough job. Everyone can do the job. But what's important to people, and you're not
Yeah.
going to make everyone happy. Like,
That's correct. Yes. Yes.
let's get that out of the way right there, guys. That's, um, but if the actions and the intentions come from a really good place, a consistent place,
Yeah.
people are going to stay and train your people, give them growth, give them opportunities to learn what it is you do
Yep.
as a supervisor. So if ever they do want to make a jump, take a leap, they're capable, you
Yeah.
know?
And as much as we like money,
Mm,
as leaders, we have to really realize that that is not going to keep people. It may bring them initially. It
yeah,
is not going to keep them.
it won't. Because I think we've all probably been to a place where we take a little pay cut because we are
Yeah.
miserable, like,
I
ah,
remember when I was in the big center. I remember my last raise. We used to say raise was just big enough to get the psychologist we now need. Just big enough to pay for that therapy we're going to need.
oh man, ain't that the truth? And that's after using those 10 free sessions, you know what I mean? We
Yes,
maxed it out.
yes,
Oh my gosh, that's crazy. Um, but genuinely, I think, you said it a few times, you come from a small center. But taking things that work and finding ways to implement them into whatever system you're working with
yeah,
is why we have these episodes, why we have these conversations, is because something as simple as scheduling your time, on your personal calendar, no one else gets to see your business, but what you're doing when you're doing it and why you're doing it is probably so helpful. And that's something maybe someone listening can take and implement into their tool belt.
for sure, for sure.
Alrighty, let's see. Oh, I just love trading and like culture building. It just like speaks to my little athlete soul where like we're gonna win the championship together, guys. How are we doing it? Oh man. So we talked a little bit about this, but how do you think, or what is the best way maybe to offer these opportunities to frontline, training enhancement or involvement in lateral kind of roles within your center? Um, have you found a good way to kind of put it out to people and see if maybe they weren't interested last year, maybe they're interested this year, or like kind of how do you gauge people's interest in those training opportunities or those lateral assignments?
Yeah, so it's one of the things that we always discuss in our one-on-one. So yes, the everyday casual conversations are important for relationship building for all of that, but those formal conversations are important just to make sure we're not missing out on things like this exactly. So understanding what their goals are, what they want to do. I have a couple of employees who will tell you I don't want to do anything different than what I'm doing right now. And I respect that. That's where they want to be. That's what they want to
Yeah.
do, but I also continue to ask them just in case that changes,
Mm.
just in case, like they're like, oh wait, but that does, sound
Yeah.
interesting. So that's what I do. I focus on paying attention to what their skills are, what they're really good at, making sure I'm allowing people to do things that they're also not that good at, that they want to become better at.
Mm.
I think a lot of times we tend to kind of stick people in places where they're good at, but again, there's no growth in that.
Mm.
If I'm always having
Mhm.
to do the same thing, then you're not developing in other areas. So when I have someone that wants to develop, that wants to do that, I make sure that they have those opportunities. But I also make sure not to punish those who are comfortable where they are, because
Mm.
at the end of the day, I hired you for a job. If you're doing that really well and you don't want to, that's fine. That's absolutely fine.
Mm.
So it comes down to those relationships, and it still comes down to understanding your people, who they are, what they want to do, and then of course on the other hand, on the other side of that, understanding what opportunities you can offer. I'm not going to promise you the world. There's only one manager position, and on leaving for a little while. So, but when I'm not here, I do need someone to fill in, right? So
Mm.
I'm still going to
Mhm.
train whoever's willing to do the work,
Mhm.
which might mean coming in sometimes when you're not scheduled. It may mean overtime. It may, because if that's what you want to do, then you need to show me that that's what you want to do and be willing to compromise and fit it in. So there's
Mhm.
a lot of moving parts that go into this. As a leader, though, it's my job to start that conversation. It's my
Mhm.
job to make them aware when these opportunities open up. I hate to hear leaders say, well, I know this training is coming up, but nobody's asked me about it. Yeah, because they've been on the radio for 72 straight shifts and haven't had time to look at Apple's website. But if
Yeah.
I know something's coming up, I'm going to make sure that they know about it.
Mhm. Mhm. It's so true. And like, one thing that I've seen or heard centers do sometimes, which I don't think is right, is they'll ask you to burn your time to go to a training.
Yeah.
And I'm like, hold up.
Mhm.
Wait a minute.
No. Nope.
I
Nope.
will one thing Ashley will never do is burn her time for
No.
a job.
Yeah.
This is
No.
y'all thing. This is my vacation, this is y'all thing. So if you're a center that does not stop it, um
Please.
the
Because
department
that's
did.
what that is. That's a fake opportunity.
Yep.
That's you trying to make it seem like you're giving opportunity so that you can throw it up later and say, well, I said y'all could go to. No, that's
Yeah, but I had to burn a
yeah.
100 of my hours, and
No.
now I can't go to Maui. Like what? Like, wait a minute, because I did a training, now I can't do?
That's
No.
crazy. And that's
Yeah,
kind of so me, I do take those opportunities and I don't necessarily have to burn my time, but I am also salary. So they
yeah,
don't give me any extra,
that
for
part.
that.
I'm
But
working
again,
all
that's one of
the
those
time.
things that, yeah, that's your responsibility as a leader. That's what you sign up for in this role. That's not a frontline problem.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. And I mean, I think it's very, I think sometimes, like you said, some people just want to show up, do the job, go home. 1,000% amazing. There's nothing wrong with those people.
we need
Um,
them too.
we really do, because they humble people like Ashley. Is like, just sit down, shut up, and do the job. Stop trying to do the most. Stop making a podcast. Relax. Shit,
Not
Ashley.
only that, people like that are so consistent. And I think sometimes
Mhm.
you lose sight of that, right? They're so
Mhm.
constant, they're consistent, they're where they're supposed to be. Like as a leader, I need to know who that is. That
Yes.
is so useful to me.
Mhm.
Even that. So
Yeah.
that is a it's not a slight to those people at
No,
all. If you
not at all.
it goes back to knowing yourself, right? If you
Mhm.
know that that's where you're happy and that's what you want to do, more power to you.
Yeah, but I do think you made a really good point where, as a leader, it's still your job to continue to have the conversation, continue to offer. because for, I don't know, 15 years, the lateral thing might not have perked an interest, and then on the 16th year, you don't have the conversation, and all of a sudden they're like, wait a minute,
Yeah.
that
Why
actually,
you didn't ask me?
yeah, like what? Like, and to be fair, that is on you as a leader. You
Yeah.
should have asked the 16th time, and that sounds
Yeah.
silly, but like you should have. Like,
Yeah.
that's your job, that's your role, you know? Like, it's so important to just Drew Clark said it on one of our episodes here. He was like, you got to show up for your people on blue sky days, you know, like, because when the clouds roll in, you got to have tough conversations.
Yeah.
You have something to stand on, you know,
Yeah.
there's actual, you know, those tough conversations are easier to have when
You
you've
already
also
have
talked to them
that.
outside of yelling at them. You know what I mean? Like,
If that's the only time you talk to them.
right? Like, Ashley, can you come in here? No, no, I can't.
Oh, thank you. I'm just gonna clear out my locker.
Like, you know what? Meet me in the lot. I'll hand over my stuff. It's all good. Oh my gosh. Well, you're doing a lot of research, you know, on the supportive leadership and you know, culture in our centers, and I imagine you're probably still really early in your program, and you're probably still doing a lot of research. Are you almost at the finish line?
Yeah, so I'm in the oh Jesus. I'm doing so much writing right now for my
Oh,
proposal, and so
okay, okay.
I'm really close to an actual research question.
Okay,
Um,
okay.
so very excited. I am hoping to be done by the end of 2025,
Oh,
like completely done.
amazing. I'm so excited for you.
Yes.
And through your research, has anything, I'm sure plenty of things have stuck out, hence why you're getting a doctorate with it. But has anything been like super surprising from your research, or something where you're just like, I never thought of that, or you know, that just really eye opened for you? Um,
You know, I don't know that it was surprising, but
mm,
in our field, we like to say like, oh, dispatchers, we're different, or different things move us, and that is not as true as it used to be.
mm,
People used to be loyal to the craft, where we could beat the crap out of people, and for some reason they'd still stay.
yeah, yeah.
That's not true anymore. That's changing generationally. It's
Mhm.
changing because our options, where there may have been one center in the county, now you have five. You have,
Mhm.
dispatch centers in colleges and hospitals. I work in an airport. Like literally, our options are vast, and so people don't feel as stuck in negative spaces.
Mhm.
So that's changing again generationally. These these young people,
Yeah,
listen,
they don't play. They're like,
you
what?
better
I'm
treat
good.
them right. You better treat these young people right, or they are going to walk out. They would rather be poor,
Mm,
literally, than stay in
mhm.
a situation where they don't feel heard or respected.
Yeah,
And I actually adore that. I
love
do.
it. S
Yes.
props to them.
I have.
Glad they figured it out.
um, and I think it's because our generation is going through so much mentally,
Mm,
where they're watching their parents spiral, into depressions because they felt like they had to go work this 9 to 5 every day.
mhm.
And they're like, yeah, no, I'm not doing that. And that's what happens with generations. We learn from the ones before us if we're paying attention, if we're doing anything right. Um, but research wise, it is literally the same lessons, the same things repeated year after year after year. My goal is to make sure that leaders in our industry
Mm,
are paying attention,
that part. Yeah.
to see that and know that, hey, this is applicable to us too. But we're always like, no, we're different. People who do this work, we're led by, yeah,
Yeah.
to a point, but there still has to be, those basic psychological needs need to be met and fulfilled.
Yeah. You know, I love that. And it's true, like, you know, we special. We can we can be special, but also we're very basic. You know what I mean? Like, it's also not that deep. Like people just want to enjoy their days off. They want to be able to pee in peace. You know, they want to enjoy a hot lunch for
Yeah,
30 minutes a day. You
yeah,
know, with those basic needs are being met, you know, the sky's the limit from
yeah,
there. You
yeah.
know.
I mean, literally, I am fully staffed right now,
Mhm, mhm,
and I do believe because, like I said, they could make more money
mhm.
down the street. They could
Yeah,
have better technology. They could, get that $3,000-$4,000 signing bonus that the town down the road is hiring. But I think the connections that we built, like I said, I've been here 2 years,
mhm,
and I do think that that's what keeps the team together. That's what keep them, coming back because I
mhm.
do make sure things are very supportive. Now, that doesn't mean I don't hold people accountable because I
Yeah,
think that sometimes people hear that and they're like, "Oh, she's a no, no, no." They'll tell you.
yeah, yeah.
They'll tell you as long as we're doing what we're supposed to be doing,
Mhm.
our leader has our back.
Yeah,
Because I do,
1000%.
yeah, yeah,
And I mean, that's what you're supposed to. Like you're for me, my supervisor's job and like I people that have supervised me like ever in life, right? Like great people, like humans, nice humans, would share a meal with them. Um, but my relationship with you is you're my supervisor, right?
hmm,
So I need a certain level of stuff from you. And when you're not giving that, there's failure in the relationship,
yeah,
right? Because
yeah,
I don't need you to be my friend. I don't need you to come over and have a bevy with me. Like I need you to train me. I need you to protect me and teach me. Like those are and if you're not doing those things,
yeah.
then there's a failure in this relationship. And it doesn't mean you're a bad human. It
Yep.
just means what I need from you
You're
in
not
this
able to,
exchange.
yeah.
Yeah,
And
you're not
that's
holding
where
up the meal.
the tension comes in, and that's where you
Mhm.
can find a very friendly leader and still have really bad culture.
Yeah.
That's where that comes from because
Mhm.
for those people you're not holding accountable, you're
Mhm.
just pissing off the good employees who are
Yeah.
doing what they're supposed to be doing. And now
Mhm.
there's additional conflict at the operational level. So yes, it's definitely balanced, but it does come back to that time and it comes back to building relationships.
Yeah. Oh, such a great episode. I'm loving it. Typically, I ask someone at the end of the episode, the last question I usually ask is, what advice would you give someone considering a career in dispatch? But because we've been so supervisor heavy,
Hmm.
and I've really enjoyed it, I'm gonna switch it up a little bit. What advice would you give a supervisor um, who is taking a look at their center and are at a point where they realize they need to make a pivot with the culture, with their supervision, with whatever the thing is? What advice would you give them when they're sitting down to really make this change in this center?
Listen, the
Mm,
answer is there. Your people have been telling you what they need. Really listen. Don't listen to answer. Don't listen. Just sit, listen. You don't need to respond. You don't need a rebuttal in that moment. Don't try to justify anything. Literally let them talk. Listen to what they're telling you. Take that information back. Reflect on it. Think about what you can do. Um, but that's the most important thing is that the answer is there. They're telling you what they need. If it's so bad that you're past the point that they're willing to talk to you, because I have also seen that,
mm,
then you're gonna have to build some of that trust back.
mm,
Build some of that trust back by conquering the little things. Have small conversations that don't weigh a lot. It's hard for an employee to don't just have your first conversation be, "Hey, what am I doing wrong?" That's tough.
yeah.
That's a
Hmm.
hard conversation. So some smaller things, what? Ask them about something someone else is doing wrong. What's something you want the police department to look at? Take
Mm,
that information back, take it to the police department, get some of those things rectified, and then they're going to say, "Oh, they're trying to make some changes. They're trying, they are listening." Build some ground that way, but it really listen to your people. Sometimes you have to listen to what they're not saying.
mm.
That old adage is reading between the lines. But the answer's out there. It's in the center. Just go sit out there. You don't even have to listen to them talk to you. Listen to them talk to each other.
Mm. Oh, such great advice, T'airra. Thank you so much. Genuinely, you know, I've had someone come onto the show. Actually, when I went out to Kansas, and they did their state chapter, they were like, "We're out here representing for the small centers." You know,
Mhm.
I've worked at a very large agency. We're about a 13 seat center that I work at now, 13 people, I should say. And man, small centers, you out here too. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, you guys are doing big things. So thank you so much for coming on and sharing your journey and your story. And I'm sure a lot of people learned a lot today from
I
you.
hope so. I hope so.
I'll be right back with you. All right, everybody, another amazing episode here at Let's Talk Dispatch, really bringing it into 2025 with that leadership, supervision. Listen to your people. I think that was the biggest takeaway. Great advice out the door. Um, it's sometimes it's not that deep. Sometimes you just got to listen to your people, and yeah, do the little things. So make sure to subscribe, tell a friend if you're interested in coming onto the show. Go ahead and head to theraspydispatcher.com. And until next time, everybody, stay raspy. Thank you for listening to Let's Talk Dispatch podcast. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button. You can find us wherever you listen to podcasts, including Apple Podcasts and Spotify. If you're interested in becoming a guest on the show, or maybe even submitting your own story, you can do all that and more at theraspydispatcher.com. Until next time, stay raspy.